Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. I am your host, Nathaniel, and I am just thrilled to be with all of you today. We have a special guest with us today, Sarah Dawkins, who has had quite a transformational journey and is transitioned from mainstream healthcare into a worldwide coach and author. She's written books that you can see in her background, Heal Yourself, that are translated in multiple languages. She's had quite a transformational journey as a holistic health coach, and also a fellow podcast host as well. So we're really pleased to have you here, Sarah. And I'd love to just introduce you, to invite you to introduce yourself. Tell us about your journey and what brought you here today, and also about your mission and your message to the world.
Thank you, Nathaniel. As you said, I'm an author, a podcaster, a holistic health coach, but I wasn't always those. My journey started as a registered nurse, and I always wanted to be a nurse to help people during their vulnerable times, help them to help themselves. But I was challenged literally 4 years into my nursing work. I was challenged by a nurse colleague about my use of pharmaceuticals at home, wondering why she might have said that, or that set me off on my journey of exploration, of research, to find out why, to understand why she would say something like that, and to see what else there might be outside of pharmaceuticals, because all I knew was doctors, nurses, pharmaceuticals, and diagnoses. My journey led me down a huge rabbit warren into all sorts of different things. One door opened, 100 doors opened, another 100 doors, and it was so much. It was quite overwhelming at first. But the more I read, the more I realized how powerful our minds are, and how we can bring things into our life, as in manifestation, that we can not just heal ourselves, but we can actually cause ourselves to have symptoms. And for me, this was mind-blowing, because I'd never been raised with that knowledge. I was never taught it at nursing school. We're just taught that when you get a diagnosis, here's a pill that goes with that diagnosis, or here's an intervention. We cut something out, we put something in, and we are healed, in air quotes. But that once I started my journey, I realized that healing is more than symptom suppression, which is what Western medicine tends to be. But don't get me wrong, I do feel that it has a place with things like trauma, emergencies, and accidents. It absolutely has a place there. But I think for the vast majority of things, we can heal ourselves. So on my own journey, I started changing the way I ate. I started eating cleaner. I started walking more, looking at my sleep and hydration. And because I was a nurse, I was kind of blinkered into thinking, well, these are all that we need to do to heal in that physical. I've defined 4 pillars of health and healing, and the physical realm is where most people start. And that's where I start, because, not knowing anything about anything else, I thought, well, I can make changes here and make tweaks, which I did. And I started seeing tangible results in my own body. I healed psoriasis, eczema, and acid reflux in about a month, which was great, because I'd read about other people healing and wondered, well, are they really special? Is there something about them that they could heal and I couldn't? But I kept moving forwards, thinking, well, if they can do it, I might be able to do it. And then when I started healing, I'm like, okay, so I really can do it. They're not that special. I'm now doing what they're doing. And that was just like a whole mindset shift, because I'd stepped out of, I need a pill and a doctor to make me well, into, I just tweaked my diet and lifestyle, and look at me healing. So that was the start of my own journey. And the more I carried on researching, I realized, and I've developed 4 pillars of healing. So the physical is where most people start, but we need to address the mental, which our mental health, which is our thoughts, our beliefs. We need to address the spiritual, which I found when I started addressing the mental health, which is, doesn't necessarily have to be about religion. It can be if you want it to be. For me, it was about spirituality itself, what is the meaning of life? But it was also about reconnecting to that little voice inside me, the one that I disconnected from as a child and stopped listening to. And a lot of us do that. We take our mind out of our body, out of our head right away. And we have no idea what's going on in our body, and we lose touch with it. And then the final key, the final pillar, if you like, was the emotional side of it. And that is really about healing our past. We have to heal our past to be able to heal our present and our future. Otherwise, we just keep recycling our past into our present and into our future. And through my own healing, and the people I've had on my podcast and written in my book, I've found that more and more these pillars are so pertinent in our own healing journey that we do need to address them. But actually, the emotional side is the key, the biggest key of all, is from what I've learned in my own journey and the people I've spoken to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, it's interesting. So I love hearing these four pillars. I was wondering where you're going to go, because my background being in Indigenous wellness, the medicine wheel is a big part of what you're talking about. And it's so important in this mainstream Western society. I love how you positioned the Western medical model as having its place, in terms of if people are in a serious injury or something like that. It's very good at stitching people back together and all that stuff. But in terms of dealing with chronic health issues and a lot of the things that people are struggling with on a day-to-day basis, it is beyond failing. It has done a lot of harm, in my opinion, and especially from, like, I worked in the clinic settings with Indigenous wellness, and so I have a fairly good background. But the medicine wheel that you were talking about, the spiritual and emotional, and I can totally relate to you, like where people might mix, spirituality with religion, and not understanding that it has really to do with who we really are, and our purpose, right? But the emotional piece is such an important piece that has been, at least from my own direct experience, and here I'm on Turtle Island. Are you in the UK currently, or
I'm in Spain.
you're in Spain? Okay, that's what your bio said. But are you originally from the UK?
I am, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I'm from the
Because
UK.
I know that the culture here in Canada, especially English culture, there's a lot of people don't always talk about their feelings. There isn't a lot of emotional capacity, at least in the household I grew up with. I felt like anytime I would have an extreme feeling like sadness or anger, which is a natural state that all children and things go through, it wasn't tolerated, not from some like mean place, but really, I don't think, especially my dad, because he didn't know how to handle his own emotions. He would try to stifle them, because they were so uncomfortable to him. And I feel like that can get passed on unintentionally, like our parents love us and stuff, but it does create malady. It creates dis-ease, which, leads to dis-ease. So once you're now established as an author, and I love the title of your book too. It's reminiscent to me of Louise Hay, who we love. She's one of our inspirations and guides. So I love that you're introducing this through your journey as a previous nurse practitioner, and now you're in the holistic health field. So what is your big the big mission that you're carrying through this work that you're doing? Because you're working one-on-one with people and also have the podcast.
Yes. My mission is literally, you can heal yourself. And my mission is to empower people, to help them to see that, to take their power back, because we tend to outsource our power to other people to help us to heal ourselves, when really they're not helping us to heal ourselves. They're giving us pills to suppress symptoms, as in Western medicine. So my mission is to help people to see that they too are as special as I am, and as special as anybody that I've read about who's healed themselves.
Yes.
We're all special. We've all got that power, that innate power within us. We're just raised without that knowledge. We're never told my mum was a nurse too, so she didn't even understand the power of our innate healing ability.
Yes.
In nursing school, we were never taught that. In my years as a nurse, I was never taught that.
Yeah.
I've learned that outside of my profession. And so, for 41 years, I was in that medical model. That's all I knew. This
Yeah.
outside world never existed.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to spend as long as I did
Gotcha.
not knowing what their body and mind are capable of, that the
Mhm.
power resides within them.
Yeah. And it's a huge, I mean, it's literally the power that grows everything and nurtures everything, right? That's within us all. I feel like every master who has ever walked on the earth has tried to point us to that, and always by pointing us back within ourselves. But it is a journey, as you've experienced, right? And I love that you came through it from your own direct experience, because I feel like sometimes we hear something or we read something, and then it's like we want these experiences, but sometimes we have to go through it ourselves to really get the like, oh yeah, it is truly within me for that to click. Because sometimes, like you talk about the different dimensions of self, the mind and the body and the emotion and the spirit. Sometimes the mind can, we learn something, but we don't have the direct experience physically. So there's always a lingering question, like, is it true? Is this possible? Can I heal? So that's amazing that you're doing that. And are the primary people that you're connecting with, have they gone through the medical route themselves and are now finding you have that, or is your mission to really prevent people from even having to go that route? Like, what kind of audience are you attracting in your podcasts and in your connection with people?
I think the vast majority of people that come my way are stuck within the medical model.
Mm,
And they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. They
yeah,
want to take back that responsibility. They want to come off of the pills that they're on. They're fed up with being in that situation. And a latest client of mine, she's in her, I think, late 70s, and for 50 years she's had digestive problems,
mm,
and she's had every test, every blood test, every investigation, scans, scopes, cameras, everything, and
yeah,
everything comes back normal.
yeah,
We had a session, and in one session, she emailed me the following week and said, for the first time in 50 years, my digestive system feels relaxed.
wonderful.
And not one single doctor in 50 years could give her that. And yet, in one session with me,
Mm,
she was able to take the blinkers off and look
mhm,
outside of medicine and pharmacy and look at the emotional issues and
yeah,
see what I was guiding her to see,
yeah,
and understand it. And that's the key.
mhm,
Not everybody is able to see that there might be a non-medical cause for it.
yeah,
Some people are looking, well, the test says this, I've seen the
yeah,
scan and it shows that. But actually, yes, you can see that on there, but have you thought about that emotional underpinning? And
mhm,
when we dig into that and they see it, things change. Their body starts to heal because they're no longer holding whatever it was.
yeah,
As you well know, emotion gets trapped in the body, which causes us pain and
yeah,
symptoms and dis-ease. When people are open to seeing that, and not everybody is, but when people are, magic happens,
yeah,
miracles happen, and it's
yeah,
just so beautiful to watch. But that said, I do have a small amount of people that come to me who don't want to get sick.
mhm,
And those four pillars of health and healing still apply. We still
yeah,
have to address all those four pillars to be able
absolutely.
to stay healthy as well as to heal.
Mm-hmm. No, that's wonderful. It makes sense that you would attract people who are in that system, because I mean, I feel like each of us has such a unique lens and window. And I'm interested because you talked about how emotions can get stored in the body. From my perspective, and I recognize my limited perspective is like, I had a lot of things. I challenges as a young baby, and when I was a preteen and teen, like even earlier than that, I would get really bad migraines. And it was very regular living in Alberta where they get like these wind currents. And I had such a strong aversion to ever taking pills. I didn't even like taking ibuprofen because I found that it would numb me. Like you talk about symptom suppression. Like if I would just go through the pain of the migraine, coming out the other end, I always felt like $1 million, like it was almost like my brain did this reboot. And it really taught me how to meditate, how to be with pain, to go in the stillness. Um, Before I had words for meditation and stuff. And, you know, I've even heard like, I'm very interested in myofascia work because like those folks will say our issues are in our tissues. And in my
Absolutely.
experience doing somatic work, and it sounds like you do this, when an emotion at whatever age, we have a trauma, it could be an emotional trauma, it doesn't get fully embraced. Like if the sadness isn't fully felt, if the anger isn't fully felt or allowed to be, given a voice in a healthy way, it does get locked in us. And from my limited perspective, what tends to happen is a true part of ourself kind of gets locked away in this. And then when that emotion is really finally given a voice and is held and is heard, something can unravel and reveal like this beautiful aspect of herself that has been kind of sectioned off. It's been entangled in some way, and it's allowed when it comes back to the fullness. Yeah, like there can be immediate symptom relief, and I just want to also echo what you're saying I hear you because sometimes it's so important. This is the value of having a coach like yourself, because sometimes it can be, although I think it's possible to do our own inner work, sometimes we can't always see, we don't have the clarity of understanding what the relationship is, so it really is valuable to have someone guide you through doing that work.
Yes, absolutely. And some people understand what that means, that inner work, and other people don't.
Hmm.
And you're right, we can do a huge amount of it ourselves, but I do think we need guidance as well, because there
Yeah.
are aspects of ourself that we don't see.
Yeah.
Because there's like, if you look at the um, personality types, it's divided into like the savior, which is what we are all the time, then the middle two, the thinking and feeling, which tend to be fairly balanced,
Mm.
and then our demons, if you like, for want of a better word. And we just don't see the bigger part and the smaller part of us. We
Mm.
think we are the middle part. So if
Mm.
somebody can point out to us our saviors and our demons,
Mm.
it can help us, if we're open to it, in our own development and self-awareness.
That's an interesting perspective. No, I like that, and it's an interesting frame. So with your book, Heal Yourself, are you walking through the four pillars for folks, and like, are you? Because I imagine it's like you said, it's the beginning of a journey, right? And it can help to connect with someone who has experience to go through this. So how are you guiding people to heal themselves through looking at through this work?
In my book, it's my own healing journey, my own
Okay.
life, and the health problems that I struggled with and overcame, and 74 others as well,
Okay.
sharing all their own healing from like cancer, multiple sclerosis, motor neuron, ALS as you call it, um, all sorts of autoimmune disease, stroke, allergies, asthma, endometriosis, Lyme, just a whole range of health problems. And they all detail how they've healed themselves outside of
Okay.
pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
And at the back, I've summed up what I've learned through my own healing and the people who've shared their own healing
Okay.
about the four pillars of health and healing. And not everybody's used them. Some people have stayed in the physical,
Hmm.
like I did when I started my healing, and healed the psoriasis, eczema, and acid reflux straight off. So some people have detailed how they changed their diet and what they went to and how they've healed what they've got. Other people detail their own journeys through more or less the four pillars that I've devised since writing my book.
Okay, that's wonderful. I imagine like anything, like when you take the whole picture and work on every single pillar, you can get, pretty astounding results. And I feel like, a lot of the journey, I like to think of it as a journey returning home, like because when we're really young children, for the majority of us, we're emotionally well, unless we do have an early age, trauma. We're usually physically healthy. We're fit. We're running around everywhere. Everything's an adventure, and we also I think have that closer connection to that small little voice that you talked about, that whisper. And emotionally, we talk a lot on our show about how children are not only our greatest teachers, like they will teach you. If you have frustration to deal with, they will show you, hey, look, I'm going to do this thing and you're going to get frustrated. Uh, but they also are like such profound leaders because they lead with their hearts open. They're trying, they're learning new skills. It really takes a lot of courage to like keep standing up after you fall over and over again. And I feel like if we continued that, cycle in our life, there's this book that I really enjoy. It's on running and learning. It's called Chi Running, and his whole thing is like children can run for all day long because they're so relaxed and they're in their body. There's no stiffness to them, and I feel like a lot of the healing journey is about returning to being fluid and just in love with life. And so it sounds like you're doing that through your work, Sarah. What do you find is the most fulfilling part of what you do? Is it the podcast? Are you taking your book and doing like book signings? Do you do public talks? Are you you're still working one-on-one with people as well? Like what do you find really lights you up the most?
I love both speaking to people on my podcast to hear their own healing journey, what they've done on their journey and how they've healed themselves. But I also love when I'm working one-on-one with clients because I see them at the start of their journey. And then I ask the questions, but they do the deep dive, the self-awareness, the healing work. I just support them. They do it all themselves. I don't heal them. And to see them at the end of their journey, like the lady I was just alluding to, who's suddenly after one session
Mm,
found relief in her digestive system after 50 years
that's
of
crazy. Yeah.
being in pain.
Wow. That's amazing. That's so rewarding to be able to guide someone back to themselves, right? To their power. And I think you brought up a really important distinction there, kind of between the lines, like a lot of people have been conditioned to give their authority to people outside of themselves, whether it's teachers or doctors or, these authorities. You're helping people realize the power that is within them and that they don't have to go to these external p- people who are also very limited in their thinking, as you suggested. Like, one of the doctors I really appreciate. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is Dr. Andrew Saul. He is known as the Vitamin Man. He's an orthomolecular doctor. You're aware? Yeah. And he talks about this. Like Linus Pauling showed, like in the 1950s, that he's probably more on the physical side of things, considering your work. But he showed that high dosage intravenous vitamin C therapy could cure most cancers. And yet that was rejected from the medical institution because, well, Linus Pauling was, he had his PhD, not an MD, and he was in physics, not in, biology. So anything he had, and so Andrew Saul is still continuing this work of like orthomolecular medicine. He talks about like the importance of like how vitamins like niacin and vitamin C and vitamin D can really, you know, um, help people's health because, well, a lack of those things, and we do have a nutritional deficiency in our soils and things, especially with monoculture agriculture, a lack of those things causes a lot of the issues that people are facing. But I love how you're also bringing in, to me is reminiscent of like Wayne Dyer, who, wrote like there's a spiritual problem or there's a spiritual solution to every problem. And he talked a lot about, the Tao and living in alignment with principles. And then Louise Hay, who talked a lot about affirmations and working with the mind. And I want to share with you a valuable resource you might find that is uplifting of your work as well. And we talked about that bridge between religion and spirituality, and this resource is, I think, one of the most important treatises on human personality and our health ever recorded. And it does also challenge the religious dogma of Christianity. So some people might find it hard, but when I hard to digest. But when I read it and my own experiences with Yeshua, Christ appearing to me in my early 20s, it feels very true to me, and it answered a lot of my questions. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because so much of what you said, Sarah, is very reflective of Christ's original teachings as well. He was leading people back to a connection of their who they really are as a source of healing. And I feel like your work is really reflective of that. And he talks very much about the things that you've talked about, your direct experience. He shares about his real experiences in the letters, or in the Christ letters that happened over 2,000 years ago. So That's actually the foundational knowledge of Light Heart Vision, and and I want to share with you as a valuable resource. If you'd like to read them ever, I'm happy to send them your way. But I'll just come close circle with this because I feel it's so valuable and so interesting that we live in an age where there are wonderful teachers like yourself who are, I feel like I don't know about you, I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but I feel like we're gathering in a circle. Like there's a great awakening of human consciousness, and we're igniting the gifts in one another and saying, "Oh, wow, you had this beautiful experience. You came out of this system." Like for me, I came out of the education system. I started getting my silver hair when I was 13, and then I became like a professor, and I've had all kinds of weird experiences. So I came out of educational institution, and that's why we want to create an education associate. That's why we are creating an education association. And you're coming from like your, the Western medical industrial complex, and I feel like so many of us are gathering, and we're giving humanity a new opportunity for a higher way of being where, hey, we can heal ourselves, we can share our gifts in new ways, we can give children the experience of free expression and contribution without going through 20 years of programming and all kinds of things. So I'm just kind of saying that I value your perspective as part of this great unfolding.
Absolutely. And I see that too. I really do see. And I've connected to so many beautiful souls online that aren't in my local vicinity.
Mm,
And we are so like-minded, and like yourself, just seeing this great awakening. Um, and it's like I think about Leonardo da Vinci, because he said something along the lines of a third of people will see, a third of people will see when shown, and a third of people will never see.
interesting.
And I'm trying to work with those that will see when shown and those that already see,
Mm,
because the people who will never see will never be able to open their minds to see what we see.
mm. Thank you for that perspective. I bet there's a lot of like healers and coaches and folks tuning in who are educators or parents who need that insight, because I know for some of us, I can speak for myself. When I first started my awakening, like, a few decades ago, I really wanted to go and convince people like we need to change our diet, we need to meditate, and it was a stress to me. It was like this. I just felt like we could be living a whole different life, and we don't need to. You don't need to be complaining about your back all the time. There's a mental issue why your back is sore and all these things. And I really wanted to help especially my immediate family. But like you said, there are some people who are just not going to be open, maybe in this lifetime, maybe for 1,000 lifetimes, if we'll entertain reincarnation for a second. But I think it's really important that because I do think there is a threshold of conscious elevation, and that as a species we're approaching more and more. And once that threshold is passed, I feel like we're going to see such a flourishing of life that you know eventually the ones that you said that need to see it to believe it, who have to see it when, or will understand when they're shown, they're going to have so much more examples of like miracle and blessing in their life. And those who are more of the visionary mind, who don't need the evidence first, we're going to be there to really support that transition. And even the ones who don't see it, they'll probably be along for the ride. Like they're gonna wake up just like people waking up now. They're like, oh, there's AI in the world and there's self-driving cars, and they're not really part of it, but it's happening anyways. Yeah. So what is your vision, Sarah, for our this coming time? Sounds like you have a big mission to help a lot of folks. What is your higher vision for our world?
I see us, those of us that can see, and those of us that are able to change their perspectives when shown. I see us coming together, and creating, a better world, a world full of love and empathy. And maybe without money, maybe we do things for other people because it feels good to give, and,
Hmm.
and other people do things for us like on a reciprocal, but that we wouldn't do it just to reciprocate. We do it
Yeah.
because we want to do it from our hearts.
Yeah.
And I see a lot more of that love and empathy, in the world, in the new world.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's interesting how, love is always at the top of the list. I think it is the love is the creative power that gives us all being. I used to say for a long time, especially in my earlier teaching days and stuff, like we are the embodiment of miracles. Like the more that we learn from a scientific view, like the complexity of the human organism, the microbiome, and how symbiotic we are in nature. I mean, we're trillions of cells walking around that grew from a cell, a seed in an egg. And it was in the moment that we had a natural home birth. My wife and I, we really were out of the system. And a lot of that, partly because of my background in Indigenous wellness, I was aware of some of the misaligned things but then with the lockdowns where we met, that was like, to me, that was the nail in the coffin. I'm like, we're not using that system at all. So we had a birth fully in our sovereignty. We had she was a trained naturopath and doula who was there, who helped guide it. But really, it was Julia's work. She was in her sovereignty and her power, and she did so much meditative work. And she created a beautiful birth affirmation wall, and we did a lot of preparations for her for like. Visualization, all kinds of things to prepare, and I prepared as well. And when I caught our daughter, we didn't even know it would be a daughter. We were just so like going with the flow, the natural flow. Uh, her first moment was just staring in my eyes with such presence, Sarah. It was so, and her eagerness to see me was so evident, and then her turning her head in the next moment to look at her mother. She was so lucid, she was so present, because Julia had no what's it called, epidurals or any kind of painkiller or anything, so her consciousness was fully there. And and I, in that moment, realized, it is so true. Like, I had the visceral experience of how miraculous life is and how we all come from this. We all are miracles, truly. It wasn't just an intellectual understanding I had anymore. It was in my body and my heart. And that's really the reason why we're doing this mission with Lightheart Vision, is to create a better world that is more in love. And I feel like every awakened person in all of history, we all wanted the same thing. We all want the same thing. And here we are in a beautiful time where we are gathering and finding each other in new ways, like on podcasts. I mean, we're on other parts of the world, we're on different continents. We're having a real-time discussion and broadcasting it to anyone who wants to watch it on YouTube. It's pretty special, right? Like, we're in a pretty special and interesting times, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we are certainly living through interesting times.
Yeah, it's incredible. I I know we only have a limited time with you today, but I want to share with you an invitation to check out School. And have you heard of School as a platform?
I'm on school.
Are you on School? Okay. Well, I'd love to connect with you on School, because to me, I don't know about you, but in terms of finding like resonant people who are awakening and who have this larger mission, it has been one of the most enriching places of connection for me. And it's so simple, like everything is about real authentic engagement. So I'm grateful that you're on there. Do you have a community on School?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay. Well, I just thought I would like bring it up, because it feels like you're the perfect kind of builder. If it sounds like you're in communities, but because I feel like there's a movement of people coming who are looking for the gifts that you have, say, in others. They're looking for the people who have these authentic, genuine experiences, and they're not the people on the high platform stages who are like the gurus. They're looking for real people who have real lived experience, who have been in the trenches as a nurse, or as a elementary school teacher, and have had these brilliant awakenings and are now wanting to help people in new ways. So that's amazing. Yeah. What would you like to share with people in this journey that you're on?
I would like to share that it all starts with your belief.
Mhm.
And like you've said, we are all walking miracles. When you think how we were formed, a sperm and an egg, just two single cells coming together. And we have the power that we believe we do. It all comes back to belief. If we believe we can heal, we absolutely will. If we believe we need a doctor, we absolutely won't heal ourselves. We will just go into symptom suppression. We have to understand our beliefs and challenge them sometimes. I challenged my belief that I needed pills and doctors and diagnoses, and walked through that, came out the other side to believe that actually my body heals itself. Not everybody's going to believe that. And I understand that now, like you. That was a journey. That was a part of my own healing as well. To, as much as I would love to help everybody to heal themselves, not everybody wants to. But for those that want to, you just have to truly believe that it's possible for you. And that's your biggest first step. Once you believe that, miracles will happen and you will heal. And the people in my books, I've got 2 people healed ALS. And we're told that you just can't heal ALS. I think I've got 4 people healed multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
And, everybody's done something different. There is no one magic bullet or treatment or therapy. They've all done something different. But at the crux of it, they all believed they could heal.
Yeah.
And they believed in what they were doing would heal their body. And the lady I've just had on my podcast who healed stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma believed, the doctor sent her home to die. He said, "You're too far gone for chemo and radio." And she believed she could heal herself. So if you can believe in your body's ability to heal yourself, you've taken a massive leap forward in your own healing journey, and you will heal because you believe you can heal.
I thank you so much for giving voices to people who have gone through this, Sarah, because I feel like a lot of the barriers people must face, with this, it sounds nice, oh, just believe it, but how do you believe it if you have never heard of it being possible, or just, it's in a text that you can't relate to? So I love that you're talking to people who have really gone through these experiences. My mom and dad were just visiting some family friends, and he has a pretty advanced ALS. So I appreciate that your book is in French because he only speaks French. So I'm going to send your contact their way, and I pray that he will have the willingness, because this is the other thing with belief, right? There needs to be a willingness to question some of the beliefs and to take that step. I do have a question about, because you brought up the power of emotions and how that's a key thing. And so the question that came to me is, in my experience, when you start to open the door to emotions, it can be somewhat turbulent, right? A lot of things can come up. It can be like remorseful. It could be, you can have suppressed anger, rage that's been in there for years. And in my experience, in order to feel the joy, you also have to feel the whole capacity of emotions. So how would you suggest for people to kind of approach that, who maybe have been suppressing, whether it's with pharmaceuticals or other forms of numbing oneself, TV, food, whatever, shopping? Like how would you suggest a gentle way for people to, knock on that door and maybe open it a little bit and start to embrace some of these feelings?
Just sit with it. Sit with it and accept that you're feeling this, rather than reach for something to numb it. My reach to was alcohol. I've been there in that dark place. But just sit with what you're feeling and feel into it. And ask yourself, what is it that I'm feeling? Is it sadness? Is it grief? Is it anger? Where am I holding it in my body? Where might it be coming from? What's trapped in my body? What's looking to be heard? Because what we're feeling in our emotions, they're coming up to be heard, to be seen, to be validated. And quite often we drink, we scroll, we shop, we have sex, we smoke cigarettes to numb those emotions so we can't feel them. So just sit with them, see them, acknowledge them, feel them, validate them. Like, you could put your hand on your heart and say, I see you, anger. I see you, sadness. I see you, grief. Thank you for showing up. What is the message that you have for me? And ask ourselves, because our body, our cells know. We just have to be receptive to hearing the answer. And it might not come to us as words. It might come to us as pictures. It might not come to us at that time, But later that day, we might see something that we go, oh, that really, yes, that's triggered a memory. And now I see why. But just validate your emotions, because most of us, as you said, when we were children, our parents, wasn't that they didn't want to acknowledge what was going on, but they felt uncomfortable when we were sad or grieving or whatever negative emotion was coming out. Even anger, shush, don't be angry, calm down. And it was never done from a place of malice. It was done from a place of not understanding.
Yes.
And because we were told that expressing those negative emotions like anger, sadness, grief, frustration wasn't well received, we learned to suppress. And quite often, most of us are still suppressing because of what we learned in childhood. So we have to unpick that a little bit and know that our parents, our caregivers, did what they did with the skills and knowledge they had at the time.
Yeah.
Some of them might still have that same skills and knowledge. Some of them might have become more self-aware and see what they can do now differently. And like with I've got grown-up children. So as I learn more in my own journey, I pass that knowledge on to them. And I've said to them, look, I'm really sorry I wasn't the best parent, because, my parents divorced when I was younger, and my parents did what they did to the best of their ability. So I learned maladaptive coping mechanisms, which I then passed on to my children because I had them before I did my healing. So it's about not feeling guilty. It's easy to start to feeling guilt and shame for what we've done as parents. But that then leads to further dis-ease. We need to give ourselves some love and compassion and say, you did what you did with the skills and knowledge you had, but now you know better. You could pass that on to your children, apologize for what you did or didn't do at the time, and help them in their own healing. And my children have done so much healing that it's just beautiful to see them grow and evolve and become so self-aware as well of what they went through to be able to heal and show up differently in the world.
Yeah. Such a powerful message. And I think it's the true spirit of conscious parenting, continuing to do our own work, and then, continuing to reinforce those healthy relationships with our children. So that's really beautiful. I'm grateful to hear you have that that kind of relationship with your children, and that you are a light in our world, Sarah. I appreciate, the work that you're doing. And I appreciate that you are also translating your work into more than one language. I see you have English, French, and that looks like Spanish. And is that Dutch? Dutch.
Yes.
Yeah. So that, I think that's really wonderful. I really appreciate your mission, and you have a gift of taking, things that would seem very overwhelming and like complicated, like dealing with some, diseases, physical diseases that people would like are uncomfortable to even look at, and really simplifying down to the power of belief and the power that lives within us and is always whispering to us. And I love how you painted it, how, it might, just tell you right away, or you might visualize something, or maybe you'll have an experience that life is telling you, here's your answer that you're asking, but it requires that willingness to start, sitting with those feelings, to ask the question, like, what are you telling me? What do you want? And so very, very profound. I feel like it's if we were to approach life in that spirit, I feel like it's akin to what, Yeshua told us about, through the eyes of a child, we seek heaven. Because if we can all treat one another that way, just like a small child, if you encounter a small child and they're angry, or they're crying, you don't you say, okay, walk it off. You hold them, you hold space for them. And if we can treat ourselves that way, we're making a much more pleasant and beautiful, harmonious world for everyone. So
Absolutely.
thank you for carrying this message forward. And I loved asking people, and maybe I've already kind of asked you this, but maybe if you could summarize it in just I love asking guests, if you had a megaphone and you could talk to everyone in the world at the same time, and everyone could hear you, what would you share with people?
Your body is capable of healing itself.
Hmm.
The doctors sadly don't know this, because their training is funded by pharmaceutical companies. So they're trained to diagnose and then find a pill and put that pill with that diagnosis. So you have lived with your symptoms or diagnosis for however long. You know your body. If you can believe in the fact that you can heal yourself, even when the doctors say you can't, you absolutely will heal yourself. You just have to believe and step away from that doctor, because you are the authority of your own body. Just listen to it and believe it.
Yeah, I love that. Such an important message, especially in these times. I feel like people are looking for other solutions and have had a growing distrust with a lot of these companies that have profited off of the suffering of others in a way, and it's just kind of the zeitgeist of the time. But I really appreciate your message, Sarah. I appreciate who you are. And I really love hearing about the journey that you've been on. So I look forward to seeing you grow more. And I'd love to connect with you on school. Maybe we could share off. You'll get an invitation to our community. You're welcome to join. But I'd love to know what communities you're in as well. And hopefully we can connect on there. Before we do close today, how can people find you? We'll also add this to the show notes, of course. But what's the best way to connect with you?
I think if you just go straight to my website, everything's on there. So it's www.sarahdawkins.com.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's wonderful, Sarah. Well, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the show today. And to all our listeners here, you've gotten some gold nuggets of a very kind and beautiful guidance of starting to listen to yourself. So I really encourage that, sitting with ourselves, especially in this time of year, right? There can be the hustle and the bustle. Everyone's shopping till they're dropping, and all the to-do lists that never end. I think taking a few of those moments, like you said, Sarah, and just reminding us to sit with ourselves. We're going to be encountering family. People are going to be bouncing up on our edges and stuff. So it's a good time to sit with our emotions, right?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. All right. Well, if you don't have anything else to share with our guests, I'm going to invite our daughter, Luciana, to come and say thanks for watching, everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. Blessings to you and your family and all that you touch.
Thank you. And likewise.
Thank you so much. All right, let's invite Luciana up here.
The moon is right, the spirit's up. We're here tonight, and let's simply having a wonderful Christmas time. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. The party's on, the feeling's here.
We wish you a
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Can you say Merry Christmas, everybody?
Yeah.
Say it.
Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Love you.
I love you.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.